waiting for that light to blink. Let's see. There it goes. Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Emily, and I'm the young adult librarian at the Rock Island Public Library. And today I have two books for you that are both available through our Libby app. And the way it works with Libby, there's a library of different titles available. I will say, used to be Libby was the ebook service that had the most manga by pretty wide margin, but now that Hoopla has manga, you should check both places, because if there's a title you want to read as an ebook, you can do that, perhaps. But the books I have for you today, sort of, well, not exactly seasonal, you'll see. First is Miracle in the Andes. And this book is the story of Nando Parrado, and he is one of the survivors of the plane crash of the Uruguayan soccer team in 1971. And in the book, we learn what this experience was like, from Nando's perspective. In part, like what you see here, this map gives you, it's not to scale, not to scale, but the thing you should know here is Nando was unconscious for the first 3 days of this ordeal. And this, if you've not heard this story, this rugby team, they were headed for a match in Chile. And they were flying over the Andes when they encountered turbulence, and the Andes, being the tall, treacherous mountains that they are, this ended in a catastrophe for the people on board. And right away, in this crash into a glacier, the plane broke in half. So for a lot of this book, the survivors are in the fuselage. They've kind of been able to make a shelter there. And Nando wakes up, and his skull is, it's fractured. It's just, he was in a sort of, not exactly coma, because he woke up. It had been 3 days when he awakened to find what had happened. He was sort of, in the first moments of the crash, he describes what he remembers, but it isn't very much because it happens within a second. And you can see the map here. This, in terms of a crash situation, was quite bad for the people who survived. Many people, quite a few people on board did die immediately, but those who survived, you can see here on the first couple pages, there's the known flight path, and then there's the intended flight path. And the thing about this is that, everybody in those first few days, they're certain that they're going to be rescued, because people knew about this flight. It was understood that, okay, we're supposed to arrive at this time, and when they didn't, it seemed like, well, surely there will be people out looking for us. Even if the weather's not okay at first, they'll sort of, once conditions improve, there'll be search party, some sort of activity, whether it's people on foot or people in a helicopter. Even if people can't fly in a plane, obviously that was dangerous for us, and we know how dangerous it is to fly above the Andes in certain weather conditions, and they just reassured each other. Marcelo, he was the captain of the rugby team. And Nando describes the fact that he initially, he sort of kept it together. He acted as captain and sort of reassured everybody that, look, there's going to be people looking for us. We're going to get rescued. We survived this long. We wouldn't just be left to die in the mountains. And Marcelo feels guilty initially, or the teammates that he's with, they understand, okay, he's the one who planned this trip, he chartered the flight, he convinced everybody to go, so he really is helping people survive in the early days, and that's just who this person is. But when it's announced, because every day just a couple people go out with the radio to try and hear, okay, if any information about us is out there, well, finally they hear that the search has been called off, because it's been so long, and they haven't found anything, the people searching. Plus, it eventually comes out that, when you see, when Nando describes what he saw, spoilers, this person wrote a book, so he did survive this ordeal. But looking down, like he understands, oh, this is why no one found us. Like he can see just what a tiny speck they were in the snow of this glacier, like in this vast expanse of the Andes. And so Nando writes about the fact that basically in surviving this, he had a lot of realizations as time passed. First of all, you should know, in the stories of survival that have come out of this ordeal, Nando is unique in the sense that his mother and his sister were both on this flight as well. And his mother died right away, but his sister, she survived for several days afterward. And so I think for the first 8 days, he was taking care of her, and he had that to sort of distract him. Like, okay, I have to figure out how to take care of my sister Susie as best I can. She's my little sister. We're in this impossible situation, but I have to do whatever I can. But of course, they didn't really have any first aid kit or access to medical care that many of the survivors needed. And so, I mean, Nando, he's starting to recover from like the wounds to his head, like his skull being fractured, certainly seems. At least from the beginning, it's sort of like the question for many of the survivors is, well, okay, like there were 2 medical students. I think it's Roberto and Arturo, maybe. But the idea here is that they are first-year medical students, so they know a little bit. Oh, I think it's Roberto and Gustavo, I think. They're the 2 who can be like, okay, well, based on how this person is injured, like we can, with broken bones, like for example, they can wrap things up. Or for a couple guys who had like badly broken legs, okay, they were able to make hammocks for them, so they didn't have to lie on the floor and risk being stepped on and endure the pain of that. But with Nando, at first it was like, okay, based on like how his skull looks, like they didn't think he was going to survive. But then one of the other survivors eventually kind of like pulled him further into the fuselage, because it's like, oh, wait a minute, he's still breathing, and it's something about his face. Like Nando's, again, he was unconscious at this time, but it's like, okay, something must have made him think, oh, maybe this person isn't going to die. Maybe his death is not imminent. And sure enough, like there's lots of questions on this mountain about what is the best course of action in trying to survive, because doing anything just is nearly impossible. Like staying out of the cold. Nobody was dressed for the cold. Uruguay doesn't really, I mean, they certainly don't get snow like the Andes. I think some of them had never seen snow before, some members of this team and others on the flight. And I mean, they ended up like unzipping the seat cushions and using the covers to kind of, okay, this will provide a little protection. Because most people, they were wearing like summer pants and not boots, like they weren't dressed for the mountains. And so just getting water, just not freezing to death at night, these were all tasks that the group handled. And Nando describes the fact that, okay, us being a team, this was important. Like this very early on, and at various points in this very, very like devastating life and death situation, it could have devolved into fighting. There could have been just a lot of issues that maybe would have come up if we hadn't already been such like a close-knit group of people, and if we hadn't had people who had important knowledge that kept us alive. So yeah, in terms of having a couple of first-year medical students, that was very good. And also Roy, I think, is the one who kind of has a sense that he's good enough with technology that he's helping to operate the radio. And so there's people who have skills that help the whole group survive. And ultimately, the group, like part of the reason this story is famous is because the group comes to the conclusion that we don't have any food left. Like they ate everything that was on board, everything that they could find, and they rationed it, and then after that, I mean, they were starving. So eventually the group agreed, okay, we're going to have to start eating the dead. Like if we die here, this terrible thing happened and nobody ever finds us. Well, okay. Like once it was announced over the radio, once they heard that the search had been called off, then it became clear that, okay, we're going to have to get out of here ourselves. And Nando was like from not exactly the beginning, but once his sister died, he was very much in the camp of, yes, I have to get out of here. I can't die here. I can't leave my dad. Just knowing that 3 members of his family are gone. Like, I have to get back to my father and let him know that I'm still alive, I survived, and I have to get back to him. But, of course, everybody is so weak at this point from lack of food and from dehydration and the cold. And so, gradually, as they begin to eat parts of the dead, people see this in different ways. Like, at one point, I think, talks about the fact that, here we go. They were able to convince most of the survivors that our lives were in our own hands now, and that each of us had to do everything he could to survive. And part of the idea, some people, like, there were holdouts, obviously. There were people who were like, no, I can never do that, I can never do that. One woman, Liliana, she was finally convinced because it's like, hey, you have kids. I know you don't want to do this, but I know you want to get home to your children. And so, basically, told themselves that drawing life from the bodies of their dead friends was like drawing spiritual strength from the body of Christ when they took communion. Relieved that they were nourishing themselves, I didn't dispute their rationale. But for me, eating the flesh of the dead was nothing more than a hard, pragmatic choice I had made to survive. I was moved by the knowledge that even in death, my friends were giving me what I needed to live, but I felt no uplifting sense of spiritual connection with the dead. My friends were gone. These bodies were objects now. We would be fools if we didn't use them. So eventually, Nando and the others who are, it's agreed, okay, these 4 people are going to go. Well, there's an avalanche, and more people die in this. And this happens when the group is at the point of, okay, kind of feels like things have stabilized, we've learned to survive, we're doing okay. Obviously, not okay, we're having to do survival cannibalism to not starve to death. But there was this thought of maybe nobody else is going to die. And then this avalanche happens, and several more people do die. And after this, the group at one point decides, let's go east first, because twice other groups try and go to the west, and they just can't make it over the mountains. And so Nando finally, he's with the group that goes east, and they're able to find the tail of the plane that had fallen off, had been like ripped off in the crash. And so they're able to get supplies there, but even this, Nando just thinks, okay, this is sort of a good practice run for going west, because he knows that Chile is to the west. It's like, okay, I have to go this way. Eventually, he was just convinced that that's how we're going to get out of here. Like, eventually, and it gets to the point, like, in later chapters, he's thinking, well, probably I'm going to die trying this, but I would rather do that. And he and Roberto, who, this is somebody Nando recognizes, like, we don't always get along, this person could be hard to get along with, but this person's stubbornness in this situation is an asset. Like, we're doing this thing where we could very easily die. Like, one false step and you fall down a glacier. But the idea with, like, wanting Roberto to be the person with him, Nando's like, yeah, this person's just, he's like me. He's going to keep going. Like, he's going to rein in my urge to just, like, I want to get west as fast as I can. This person's going to have his own ideas, and that's good. Like, we, yes, do need to be smart about this. So the book is how Nando and many people survived this ordeal. It's sort of like early chapters, like chapter 1 is before, it's prior to this, and then you just get the story of the group surviving. You get photos in the middle of, like, the rugby team and different folks when they were younger, and eventually, like, once everybody, not everybody, but when those who survive are rescued, you get to know, oh, okay, this is how sort of things move forward after the fact. Because they were in the mountains for 72 days. And by that time, most people had given up hope that anybody could have survived that. And, of course, there end up, like, when, just slight spoiler, but I guess, again, Nando wrote the book, so you know he lives. Eventually, though, they are rescued, like, I think December 23rd, so it's right around Christmas. And keep in mind, because I have to keep reminding myself of this, hemispheres, different seasons, this is the southern hemisphere. So you might be thinking, oh no, the weather's just going to keep getting worse and worse. No, like by November 15th, that's spring, because this is the Andes. So they were sort of thinking, okay, like it was at one time agreed, like after the 15th, like the weather, we've heard, like people who live in this part of South America, it's understood that, well, that's kind of like the date where spring starts to arrive. I think they even describe at one point, like, oh, we've heard that spring just arrives like clockwork on November 15th. That ends up not exactly being the case. Like, they have to suffer through several more bad snowstorms. Eventually, though, like Nando describes surviving this and his life after the fact. And you get a map of what this looks like. So this is, chapter 10. So then you get a breakdown of how they got out of the mountains, what that path looked like. So it's a really fascinating book. Amy Curtis at the Rocky Library told me to read this years ago, and I finally did. So, yeah, glad that I checked it out. And again, it's such a good book, in part because even knowing that Nando lives, you want to find out how. Like, you're very eager to get more of the story, because it just seems like there were so many things that had to happen. Like, so much of the survival here is luck. Like, at one point during the avalanche, the person to his left and the person to his right, they both end up being crushed under the snow. Like, they suffocate before the others can dig them out. And Nando thinks, like, okay, these people, they worked just as hard as I did. They wanted to survive just as much as I did. This was just, it was fate. I mean, it was a matter of who was digging where and at what time. And so he has this sense of, like, he doesn't exactly agree with the others. Like, he struggles with faith in the sense that there are others in the group who say, hey, God is going to help us. God is going to help us get through this. And Nando's like, again, in part because of his experience losing both his mother and his sister, he spends a lot of this ordeal wondering, like, I don't know. I really have a hard time believing in a benevolent God. What God would let this happen to us? But at the same time, he's sort of recognizing the fact that, well, in the mountains, I have to understand the fact that I could die at any time. And so much of what happens to us, maybe it's not because of anything we do, it's chance. And if you believe in fate, it could be that. But Nando, he's just thinking, okay, if I'm going to survive, if I'm going to get back to my father and at least ease his grief a little bit, I have to kind of live from moment to moment and recognize that, yes, I will probably die, but I'm going to do everything I can to survive. So, check it out. Next, this book just came out, like, last week, I think? Maybe the week before. Very recently, end of January. And it is called Poemhood, Our Black Revival. And in this book, you get a mix of different poems that kind of explore what it means to be black in America and what different experience that can be. Because obviously, being African American, like, the black experience is not a monolith, and that's what these poems celebrate. Like, hey, there's many different kinds of experiences. And so each section, you get an introduction here, and then volume 1 is Livin'. It's kind of organized like a playlist, which I love. So track 1, you have, I think, like 10 to 12 tracks per section. And as I usually do with poems, I will read you a little bit. This, though, is a mix of old and new poems. So, like, poets writing now, poems written by poets who have passed away. And let's see. So volume 2 is God, and then you have Haunting Water, and then the last section of the book is Magical. And so poems in these sections, they explore these different themes. Let's see, so this is track 5 from the first section, and it is Courtney Comrie, and it's called 10:32 p.m. I asked God 3 times to take this thorn away from me, but thorns keep the predators at bay. So instead we preserve joy, joy like Holy Ghost quick feet, like oxtail gravy, like laughing until your side splitting, like rent paid, like they graduated, like the DJ said, shine a light on them, like we cousins 'cause our moms are friends, like a new birthday fit, like McDonald's after a doctor's visit, like look who got a promotion, like reunions, like clocking out before the sun sets, like 5 for 5 on anything, like baby shower food, like we all in the same Netflix account, like baby finally walking, like the bodega's still open, like dental and vision included, like they home now, like they healed now, like we healed now, we healed now. And you get outros after each poem. So with this one, gets into This is a prose poem about the collective joys found within the Black community in the midst of struggle. These small joys offer healing in their simplicity and uniqueness. These small joys speak to the importance of community, tradition, and love within the Black community, even if the specific struggle itself hasn't disappeared or changed. Small moments offer levity. The different joys listed are mundane and relatable to the reader, including 10:32 p.m., a time we've all experienced. So, if you like poetry, or you're looking for just a way to kind of explore different authors, I love a collection like this because it does this. You get very different, like a whole range of different experiences in this poetry. So, the depths of sorrow and just all these different joys. And like different styles of poetry. So this is a blackout poem here. And just all of these, like writers you've heard of, writers that may be new to you unless you know a lot about poetry or some of these, like Kwame Alexander, James Baldwin, writers I've talked about before. But then like the editors, Amber McBride, Taylor Byas, Erica Martin. Amber McBride is a National Book Award finalist, and basically they created this book to kind of explore the nuance of Black experience. And so Black History Month, obviously, if you want to kind of, I guess, just educate yourself about poetry, but also like just cultural touchstones, like things that are universal but also very specific, then check this out. It's really a beautiful collection, and again, I like poetry. I kind of usually have some book of poetry. Although, I mean, I'll be talking about more in April, because that's National Poetry Month, obviously. But there's a lot of great novels in verse coming out this year. And yeah, I think if you're somebody who just is looking for, I guess, an approachable way to kind of read something, I think with nonfiction, I don't know, depending on the book, depending on the reader, I like to listen to nonfiction, and poetry can be great to listen to too, but I also like to read it and just kind of sometimes read it for myself and see how the words sound. And yeah, again, it just came out, so there's probably a wait for this, but yeah, as with any new book or not new book on Libby, basically different than Hoopla, so you can't have several people checking out the same title at the same time. But you can put something on hold and then be notified when it's available. So again, both of these books are available through Libby, and you can borrow them. Depending on how you have Libby set up for you, like you just need your library card number to set up your account. And if your card expires, like you might have to log back in. Like if you get a new card, just remember that maybe your PIN has changed, or unless we change it for you. But basically, you need card number. And with that, if you get into your account, you can change the settings so that you have books checked out either for 1 week, 2 weeks, or 3 weeks. And then things return automatically when they're due. And thank you for watching. I will see you again next week.